So I want you to imagine having this guaranteed blueprint to become a millionaire, right? Just handed to you on a silver platter.
Oh, wow. That sounds pretty nice.
Right. And, like, you know for a fact that it works. It has zero risk. It's been tested and proven by people you actually know personally.
Yeah, you've seen the results with your own eyes.
Exactly. Yet, statistically speaking, you will most likely take that blueprint, put it in a drawer, lock it, and literally never touch it again.
Which, I mean, that just seems completely irrational on its face, doesn't it?
It totally does.
Yeah.
We like to think of ourselves as these highly logical creatures who, genuinely want to improve our lives. But when push comes to shove, we are just remarkably skilled at self-sabotage.
We really are. It is arguably one of the most perplexing contradictions in human behavioral economics.
Yeah, for sure.
Because we spend this immense cognitive energy optimizing our futures in our heads, and then we aggressively defend the status quo in our actual physical reality.
Which is exactly why we are diving into this today. Welcome to this deep dive, everyone. Our mission today is to explore why so many of our grandest, most meticulously crafted plans simply, well, they never materialize in the real world.
Right. Why do we get stuck?
Exactly. And to help us decode this, we are looking at a deeply insightful text today called Life's Third Step, Taking Action. It's by Xu Feng, with a translation edited by Qinyu.
It's a fantastic piece of writing, really cuts to the core of the issue.
It really does. The author sets up this very elegant framework for how human achievement actually works. He breaks it down into three essential steps. So step one is ambition. That is, simply deciding what kind of person you want to become.
Establishing the target, essentially. It's your North Star.
Right, the North Star.
Yeah.
Then step two is contemplation. This is basically the strategy phase.
Kind of planning.
Yeah, you are figuring out exactly how to achieve that ambition. You're mapping the route, assessing the resources you need, all that stuff. And finally, step three is action, the actual physical movement toward the goal.
Which is where things usually fall apart.
Right. So, okay, let's unpack this. Because the author makes a brilliant and, frankly, a brutal point right out of the gate.
He doesn't hold back at all.
No, not at all. He says that once your ambition is set and your contemplation is totally complete, if you do not take that third step action, everything means nothing.
Yeah.
It all becomes a wasted effort. Everything literally returns to zero.
What's fascinating here is how the author chooses to illustrate this point. Because, this is not your typical cheerful self-help manual.
Right. It's not like just visualize success and believe in yourself.
Exactly. Instead, Xu Feng uses 5 highly specific, almost tragic character studies, and he uses them to show exactly how human beings expertly sabotage our own transition from step 2, which is contemplation, to step 3, which is action.
It really is a masterclass in the anatomy of cognitive inertia.
Absolutely.
So, to understand that inertia, we kind of have to start with the physical reality of survival. Because, it's one thing to put off writing a novel when you have a comfortable life in a warm house.
Sure, the stakes are low there.
Right. But what about when your current reality is objectively miserable? The text introduces us to this beggar in a bustling city.
Right. He spends every single day wandering through these colorful, busy crowds.
Yeah, just wandering around with a broken bowl, begging for alms.
And we really have to pay attention to the social feedback loop he is trapped in here, because the text explicitly notes that 99% of the responses he receives from the crowd are pure disdain.
Ugh, just constant rejection.
Exactly. And the remaining 1%, it isn't warm or caring. It is entirely condescending.
Wow.
Yeah, his daily experience is just a relentless barrage of psychological humiliation and, of course, severe physical discomfort.
It's total misery. The text says every time night falls and the cold wind howls, he just huddles in some dark corner.
It's a brutal existence.
It is. But here is the critical part for our deep dive. He actually executes step 1 and step 2 perfectly.
Yes, he really does.
His ambition is super clear. He thinks, I cannot live like this anymore. And his contemplation, it is flawless. He formulates this highly specific, highly actionable plan.
He knows exactly what he needs to do.
Right. He says tomorrow he's going to clean himself up, put on fresh clothes, and get a job. He's going to save up a little bit of money, and he's going to start a business selling apples from the east side of town to the west side.
And he even notes that his old buddy, like a fellow beggar, actually got out of absolute poverty by doing exactly that, selling apples from the east side to the west side.
So it's not even a guess.
No, this is what you meant earlier by the guaranteed blueprint. It is a proven, completely de-risked business model in his world.
Right. So he has the ambition. He has the blueprint. But then, morning comes, he wakes up, and what does he do? He puts on the exact same dirty clothes, grabs the exact same broken bowl, and goes right back out to beg.
It's so frustrating to read.
It really is. And then the text hits us with this massive gut punch. It says 10 years pass, and his begging cry still echoes through the streets.
A full decade. A full decade of possessing the exact right plan and doing absolutely nothing with it.
And it's wild. But, this paralysis isn't just a symptom of absolute poverty.
Right.
Even when people have an economic safety net, the exact same psychological trap applies.
Oh, completely. The context changes, but the behavior doesn't.
Exactly. Because the author then shifts to a completely different economic reality that tells an identical behavioral story.
Right.
We look at a university graduate who's working in a government office.
Right, and this is during a very specific time in history.
Yes, when the winds of reform and opening up were sweeping across the land, and Deng Xiaoping famously calls for some people to get rich first.
That historical backdrop is so crucial here. We are looking at a moment of massive, undeniable societal shift.
Right, everything is changing.
Yeah, entirely new economic realities and opportunities are just being born overnight.
And this government worker, he sees the writing on the wall. He realizes you simply cannot get rich working for the government, no matter what you do or how hard you work.
So his ambition is wealth. That's step one.
Yep. And his contemplation leads him to a highly logical conclusion. He needs to quit his iron rice bowl job, which, for the listener, is like that guaranteed, super secure government employment, and he needs to dive into the private sector to seize a golden rice bowl.
It is a perfectly rational deduction based on the changing macroeconomic environment all around him.
Right, yet just like the beggar, the gap between the plan and the reality proves totally insurmountable.
Which is just crazy when you think about it.
Right, because 20 years later, where is he? He's still working at the very same office. He's just a minor section chief, earning just over 2,000 yuan a month.
2 decades of zero movement.
Yeah. And the author asks why and gives the simplest answer possible, because he never took action.
It really is that simple.
Yeah.
And that devastating.
It is. I find myself thinking about how many people listening right now are sitting in their own version of an iron rice bowl.
Oh, I'm sure there are plenty.
Right. Maybe it's a corporate middle management job. You know it's a dead end. You know the industry is shifting around you. You literally have the business plan drafted on your laptop right now, but you are just too terrified to jump.
Yeah, you're just paralyzed at the edge of the diving board.
Exactly. This feels like it's like meticulously plotting out a cross-country road trip. You buy the very best map, you pack the snacks, you curate the perfect playlist, you sit in the driver's seat, you turn the key, and then you just absolutely refuse to take the car out of park. For 20 years.
I love that. It is a fantastic analogy because, the engine is running, the fuel is burning, but there is absolutely no forward momentum.
Exactly. But here's what I honestly don't get. Why is the friction of taking that very first step so powerful? Especially for the beggar.
Right, because his baseline is so low.
Exactly. When his current situation, literally freezing on the street in the wind, is objectively terrible, why wouldn't a human being instinctively move away from pain?
That is the core neurobiological puzzle here. Why do we actively choose guaranteed suffering over the possibility of relief?
Yeah, why do we do that?
It really comes down to the sheer, terrifying gravity of the known. Human beings are evolutionarily wired to assess and mitigate threat. Our nervous systems crave predictability above almost everything else.
So even if the predictable thing is awful, we prefer it.
Yes, exactly. Even misery, if it is entirely predictable, if you know exactly how the cold wind feels at 2 a.m., if you know exactly the kind of disdain you'll get from the crowd, it feels oddly safe to the brain.
Wow.
It's true. It doesn't trigger the amygdala's alarm bells in the same way the unknown does.
Because there are no surprises in the misery. You know exactly what's coming.
Precisely. The unknown void of taking action, cleaning up, looking for a job, putting yourself out there in a totally new way carries unpredictable risks. What if the beggar cleans up, tries to sell apples, and still fails?
Oh, right. Then what?
Exactly. And the government worker faces the exact same neurological barrier. The iron rice bowl keeps him predictably poor, but stepping into the private sector is stepping into absolute chaos.
So it's basically a choice between being comfortably numb or facing real fear.
Yeah. When we choose an action, we are essentially choosing the anesthesia of the familiar over the massive cortisol spike of the unknown.
It is incredible how we construct these elaborate justifications just for staying put. But Okay, the author moves the lens from physical and economic survival to something that's arguably much harder to overcome.
Which is our sense of self.
Right. What happens when the barrier to action isn't about mere survival, but about how we view ourselves, like our ego?
This is where the text transitions from the tragedy of circumstance to the tragedy of identity.
Yeah, and the text introduces us to this highly talented, highly capable man. He's a department head, and he dreams of being an extraordinary figure.
But he is completely stuck.
Totally stuck. He lives in this cramped 40-square-meter apartment, which the text explicitly notes would be considered a slum in more developed nations.
But we have to remember, he is not without options. That is the critical distinction here.
Right, he's not helpless. As a department head, he actually has immense power at his fingertips. He could easily pocket tens of thousands of yuan each year through corruption, and literally no one would even notice.
But he doesn't do it.
No, because he is a man of unyielding integrity. He absolutely refuses to betray his principles. He tells himself that if he doesn't engage in corruption, he'll never get rich in his current role. But he also refuses to compromise his morals.
So his contemplation phase kicks in. He has to decide on a path that protects both his lofty ambition and his very rigid integrity.
Right, so he says to himself, I'll quit this job, I'll start my own business, and I'll live life on my own terms.
Sounds like a great plan.
It does. He looks around and he sees people with far less talent than him becoming millionaires and billionaires. He knows for a fact he is smarter than them. So his ambition is clear, the plan is set, but, and you can probably guess where this is going, a decade passes.
Just a decade of pure indecision.
Exactly, a whole decade of indecision. He never takes action.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we can really see how rigid self-identities function as these beautiful but entirely impenetrable prisons.
Oh, I like that phrase, a beautiful prison.
Yeah, because this department head is trapped by his own perceived moral and intellectual superiority. Think about the dopamine loop that's happening in his brain.
What do you mean?
Well, as long as he stays in that cramped apartment, he gets to be the genius in waiting. He is the noble man of unyielding integrity who could be a millionaire if he simply chose to try.
Oh, wow. So the potential of being great is actually safer than the reality of trying and failing.
Absolutely, because if he actually quits, if he starts a business and then he fails, what happens to that identity?
It totally shatters.
Exactly. He shatters. He might discover he isn't actually smarter than those millionaires after all. And the physical failure would be processed by his brain similarly to physical pain.
That makes so much sense.
So as long as he does nothing, his inaction acts as this impenetrable shield for his ego.
That concept of the beautiful prison applies perfectly to the next story, too.
Yeah.
Honestly, it might be the most heartbreaking one in the whole text.
It's definitely the most romantic tragedy of the group.
Yeah. There is a woman who falls deeply, madly in love with a man. She thinks of him day and night. Her ambition is simple, right? She wants to marry him.
But then her identity, her internal rule book, intercepts the action.
Right. She tells herself, as a lady, I can't confess my feelings. If I do, I'll be seen as improper.
So her strategy, her contemplation phase, is purely passive.
Completely passive. She decides to just wait for him to figure it out on his own and come to her. But of course he doesn't. Her Prince Charming eventually marries someone else.
A truly devastating outcome of inaction. And does this prompt her to finally change her strategy?
You would think so, right? But no, it does the exact opposite. It heavily entrenches her in action.
She doubles down.
She really does. She says, I'll wait for him to come to me. Even if I can only be his secret lover, I'd be happy. And then the author asks this haunting question. How long will she wait? Until the flowers have wilted, the world decays, and the earth is covered in snow.
It is a stunning portrait of self-sabotage, all wrapped up in the guise of propriety.
Here's where it gets really interesting to me, though. There is a massive, glaring paradox in her logic.
Oh, for sure.
She tells herself she is far too much of a proper lady to simply walk up to a man and confess her feelings, because that would break the rules. Yet because of her inaction, she mentally arrives at a place where she is perfectly willing to be a secret lover to a married man.
Which, ironically, completely shatters the very rules of propriety she was trying so desperately to protect in the first place.
Exactly. Being a secret lover is vastly more improper than just asking a single guy on a date.
It really is.
I think this forces the listener to ask themselves, how often do we build these elaborate, strict moral frameworks just to avoid the vulnerability of taking a real step forward?
It highlights how utterly irrational our barriers to action truly are. I mean, she would rather embrace this tragic, passive identity of the eternal, silent martyr, just waiting until the earth is covered in snow, than face the terrifying, active vulnerability of simply saying, I love you out loud.
It's so sad when you frame it like that.
It is. We guard our self-image so fiercely that we will willingly sacrifice our actual happiness on its altar.
Wow. Okay, so in the first four stories, we see characters who basically defeat themselves.
Right, the friction is entirely internal.
Exactly. The beggar, the bureaucrat, the department head, the waiting woman, they were all their own wardens. But the final story shifts the dynamic completely.
It does. It asks a much harder question.
Yeah, what happens when someone actually tries to take step 3? When they finally push past their own internal resistance, they step out of the beautiful prison, they take action, and then the world actively tries to stop them.
This is where we confront the immense gravity of the crowd.
The text introduces us to an ordinary man who has a profound epiphany. He suddenly realizes that life is incredibly short.
As we all do at some point.
Right. He realizes 100 years pass in the blink of an eye. He looks at his life of just muddling through and thinks, what will I actually accomplish? So he decides he wants to cultivate himself.
He aims high.
Very high. He wants to seek immortality, achieve enlightenment, and reach the Western paradise.
And we should clarify for the listener that the Western paradise in this context refers to the Pure Land in Buddhist tradition.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah, it represents a state of ultimate spiritual liberation. It's a total release from the mundane cycle of suffering. So for this character, it represents the absolute highest tier of human ambition. It is the ultimate existential contemplation.
And unlike all the others we talk about, he actually takes a physical action toward it.
He actually takes step 3.
He does. The very next day, he picks up a Buddhist scripture and starts reading. It's a tiny step, sure, but it is step 3. He is taking action. And what happens? The immune response from society is immediate and highly aggressive.
Oh, the pushback is instantaneous.
His own wife intervenes right away. She tells him to put the book down. She points to the garden and says, look, the fruit is ripe. We need to pick it, sell it at the market.
She's pulling him back to earth.
Right. She tells him reading Buddhist books won't fill his stomach or buy them a car. She literally demands that he face reality and pursue something practical.
And the intervention escalates from there. It doesn't stop with the wife.
No. Then his business friend chimes in and actively mocks him. The friend says, you can't even afford your kid's college tuition or buy your wife a gold necklace, and you're reading this imaginary stuff. Are you out of your mind?
Notice the specific metrics of success they are using to bludgeon his spiritual ambition here.
Yeah, a car, college tuition, a gold necklace.
Exactly. Very material, very standard metrics.
And over the next few days, it just becomes a massive community effort. Friends, family, neighbors, they all swarm in to save him from his folly.
The gravity of the crowd just pulls him down.
And eventually it's just too much. He caves. He reconsiders and thinks, so many people say I'm wrong. Maybe I am. Listen to others. Fill your stomach first. Forget about becoming a Buddha or an immortal. I'll think about it in the next life.
He surrenders completely.
He does. But wait, I'm genuinely struggling with that conclusion.
How so?
Are we really saying that a man's own family and friends are actively trying to destroy his dreams just to maintain their own comfort? I mean, that seems incredibly cynical.
This raises an important question about the underlying mechanics of change within social ecosystems. Are they the enemies of his ambition?
Yeah, are they?
Not consciously. They genuinely deeply believe they are saving him. But we have to understand what societal practicality really means in this context.
Okay, unpack that for me.
Well, society functions smoothly on predictable material metrics, right? Acquiring the car, securing the gold necklace, paying the tuition.
Right, the standard life script.
Exactly. When you suddenly declare that you are stepping off that treadmill to seek ultimate enlightenment, or, even just to start a risky business or write a novel, you are implicitly rejecting the metrics that your family and friends have built their entire lives around.
Oh, I see the underlying logic there. By choosing a different path, you're inadvertently making them question the validity of their own choices.
Precisely. It causes immense cognitive dissonance for them. People are heavily invested in the current version of you.
Right, the version they know.
Yeah, the version of you that fits neatly into their worldview and their daily routines. Taking action toward a radical new ambition fundamentally disrupts that ecosystem.
So they push back to restore order.
Exactly. It requires the incredibly uncomfortable task of disappointing the people around you. To truly take step 3, you often have to accept being misunderstood, being labeled impractical, or even being mocked by the very people you care about most.
Wow, and this man just couldn't bear that social friction.
No. So he deferred his soul's ambition to his next life just to keep the peace at the dinner table today.
Deferring your ultimate purpose to a next life that isn't even promised, just to avoid an awkward conversation today, that is a chilling reality check.
It's terrifying when you really think about it.
It really brings us back to the stark reality of Xu Feng's ultimate warning here. I mean, this deep dive has shown us that ambition is relatively easy.
Step 1 is a breeze.
Right, and contemplation, making the detailed plan, that's deeply satisfying to the ego. We love doing that.
It feels like work even when it isn't.
Exactly. But without action, all of it. The foolproof business plans, the moral high ground, the hidden love, the spiritual awakenings, none of it matters in the physical world.
It just doesn't exist.
No. The author concludes the piece by saying that without action, all these unfulfilled dreams fade into nothing, becoming just laughter in the air.
Such a powerful image.
It is. So what does this all mean for you listening at home? As we wrap up today, we want to ask you to evaluate your own life right now in this very moment.
Take a hard look at step 3.
Yeah. Look at the plans you've been carrying around in your head. Are you stuck endlessly plotting the perfect route, afraid to take the car out of park because your current misery is at least familiar?
Are you trapping yourself in a beautiful prison of your own making, just waiting for permission to be improper?
Or are you letting the crowd convince you to be practical and delay your true ambitions for the next life?
The author says that unacted upon dreams become laughter in the air. But I want you to consider this as we leave you today. Whose laughter is it?
That's a great question.
Right. Is it the universe laughing at our squandered potential? Or perhaps the heaviest burden of inaction isn't the failure to achieve the goal itself.
What is it then?
Perhaps the real tragedy is becoming the ghost that haunts your own life, endlessly mocked by the echoes of the person you fully intended, but ultimately refused to become.
Oh man, that is a profound thought to sit with. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive, for exploring the hidden barriers of the mind with us, and for taking that first step with us today. We will see you next time.